Hi, I'm Nailah Summers-Polite, and I am honored to be the co-executive director of the Dream Defenders. Well, I am a first-time mother. I just had a baby on January 15th. I've got a renewed fire in me now. I've got a little black boy that I'm raising. I am going to do everything that I can to change the world that he was born into. I came into this movement as a college student. I was brought to the work by anger, by sorrow, by, frankly, a little bit of surprise. I was learning at the time about the history of the civil rights movement in the United States. I was learning about generally Black history and the way that this country was being built. I took a race law constitution class and learned about Black codes, and those studies took me with my university's oral history program to the Mississippi Delta. And there I learned about what it was like to be a field secretary for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee from a woman named Margaret Block. I learned about Dick Gregory bringing food into the Mississippi Delta for the organizers and activists there. I also learned more about Emmett Till, Money, Mississippi. We went there. We went to the Bryant grocery where a young Emmett Till met the woman who eventually would lead to his being killed. And there's a small museum in the Delta, the Emmett Till Museum. My Black history in public schools in Florida was not that deep. I knew who he was. I had never seen the picture of him in the casket. I had frankly avoided it for some time. And in this museum, there is a Madame Tussaud-like wax figure of what Emmett Till looked like. I was sobbing and I ran outside. I'm trying to sort of process what I had just seen and the cruelty that had gone into the killing of a child, a Black child. A woman comes up to me while I'm sitting outside and hands me this little postcard. And on it was a picture of a young Black man hanging from a tree in color. She goes, "This is my son. His name is Frederick Jermaine Carter. I believe it was 2010 or 2009. He was at work and he was found hanging from a tree." And I was beside myself. I asked her, I was like, "How are you talking to me with a straight face right now?" I had to get myself together because I was talking to this woman and she seemed so strong and determined, and I was falling apart and I wanted to do something. I didn't know what, but I ended up getting her phone number and I talked to her family lawyer and I tried to organize a candlelight vigil. I think I made a Facebook page for my college to do something about it. But that was the fall, I believe, of 2011, and Trayvon Martin was killed a few months later in February 2012. I remember listening to the 911 call from the neighbors in Sanford who were calling about there was some kind of altercation between a man and a young Black boy. I remember hearing the yelling in the background. I remember being in my first apartment crying, listening to those calls, knowing that they resulted in a 17-year-old boy who, basically grew up down the street from me. I had to do something. It was not good enough to be angry. It was not good enough to post on social media. Nothing was good enough anymore. The same professor who took me in the oral history program to the Delta ended up sending me an email for a conference call that was going to happen for people who were upset about Trayvon Martin in Florida. And I joined that call. And that call led to another call that led to another call, and a group of people are planning now a direct action to get George Zimmerman arrested. I was a part of that. Those calls resulted in a 3-day march over Easter weekend in 2012. 40 days later, 40 days after Trayvon had been killed. And there were 40 sort of young people, mostly from Florida, that marched from Daytona Beach at Bethune-Cookman University's campus to Sanford, to where Trayvon was killed. And George Zimmerman was arrested 3 days later. We were part of a groundswell, obviously, that had taken the country over, really, around Trayvon, people wearing hoodies and the Skittles and all that. But we marched. It was 3 days. It was my first direct action. And the group of people that ended up doing that were the Dream Defenders. We started off with conference calls and ended up doing direct action, becoming an organization. All of those things led me to be a co-founding member of the Dream Defenders. Dream Defenders trains young people how to do that. This is a time for fighters. With everything that's going on, we can't afford our rent, our healthcare is in shambles, there's a genocide happening, and none of these things change without us and without people willing to fight and do the hard work of organizing to change them. Anger and sorrow brought me into the movement, and love is what sustains me.